Green Goblin, I'm here to stop you in your tyrannous reign.
Can Spider-Man come out to pay?
God damn it. God damn
You
it.
couldn't escape the Spider-Man come out to pay part. That's the only thing I thought of when I watched this movie.
Really?
Yes, that's the first, that and the McRib scene.
Oh my God.
But God, the McRib saga is so good. Welcome to WAM, episode 36. This week we watched the 2002 original Spider-Man 1 movie by Sam Raimi. It was re-released back in theaters, as well as I think the other 8 Spider-Man movies are going to be getting re-releases as well. And so this is just the first of the 3 Sam Raimi movies that we're going to be seeing for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and it was so fun to see it back on screen because obviously we weren't born when this one came out, but it was still a huge part of our childhoods. And how was your theater audience watching this?
I mean, my theater audience was, well, first of all, the theater was packed. Like, there were no seats open in it at all. It was completely sold out. Everyone, like, I wouldn't say there was anyone over, 30 there, but there wasn't anyone under 24, But I was pretty surprised at the turnout that it got because, like, I know the Sam Raimi movies are popular and then Spider-Man is just huge, but I didn't expect like a full sold out theater. Like, I don't even think I've seen that for some new Spider-Man movies.
No, that is fair. I know that when we had been watching some Spider-Man films, there was even on opening night, it wasn't super packed. It was hard to get good seats, but for this, everywhere I checked was sold out.
Yeah, literally up to the front row was full. Like, everyone saw seats.
Now, I think it has a lot to do with just, obviously, this is a very culturally significant movie. It's just like so popular at this point. But this is one of the only re-releases that had great marketing. Like every art or every news thing was talking about it, at least places like The Hollywood Reporter, movie specific places. They were doing a lot of advertising on social media, and they even sold out enough to where they're going to be adding new dates in the future. Just really, really good how they've advertised this. And it's weird because this is the same company that had to advertise. Well, wait, is this being done by Sony or is this being done by Disney?
I assume it's being done by Sony.
Okay, well, then that makes sense.
Sony has most of the rights.
Yeah, I will say Sony has been consistently great with marketing, but Disney, when they re-released the Pixar films that never made it to theaters, Luca, Soul, and Turning Red, it did horrible in marketing. Like, they had one thing, I think back in December, marketing for it when they would be releasing every 2 weeks the movie. And just nobody remembered that because why would they? Nobody's really thinking, I mean, people love Soul, but they're not really trying to get back into Soul, especially if they have to look for it. You should make it readily available. Keep reminding them.
Yeah. With this, I mean, even with some other re-releases that are coming out now, like Shrek 2, I mean, compared to that, I didn't see any advertisements besides maybe like the lone Twitter post or something like that. But compared to Spider-Man 2, like there was just a great advertisement campaign for it. Like, I think we saw more than a month in advance that these movies were going to be coming to theaters. Like, that was really good and a really good move for this, especially since not as many people are going to the theaters. Just a really great way to pull people back in.
I mean, for this re-release, they even made a trailer, and I thought that was fun. It just starts with like the newspaper flying into screen Sam Raimi style, just saying Spider-Man's back, and just showing clips from the 8 movies. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. And like, I have the little promotional poster they gave, which is like, I mean, it's the same poster from 2002, just with the like back in theaters kind of thing, which is cool. It's neat. But regardless, let's get into the plot. So do you want to give us just a quick little rundown of Spider-Man 1?
Yes, absolutely. This is a story we've all heard before. It's iconic. We have this nerd. He's Peter Parker. He lives with his aunt and uncle. And while he's out doing a field trip at a place that has genetically modified spiders, he gets bitten by one. And the next day, he finds out that he's somehow gotten great powers. Great powers.
Responsibility.
Yeah, he has that too. He can climb up walls. He has super strength. He has organic webbing that is specific to these movies, where usually it's mechanical.
Yeah, it's like a little gadget.
Yeah, and while he starts to become this superhero figure, mostly so he can date Mary Jane at the beginning.
Yeah, he just wants pussy. That's really it. But
he starts to become a more responsible superhero after he fails to stop a mugger who will eventually kill his Uncle Ben. that sort of instills into him an idea of, I have to act responsibly with the power I have so that people don't get hurt. And he spends the rest of this movie basically being a superhero. And at some point, there are consequences. But that's not the only thing that's in this. We also have a cultural icon, one of the one of the best performances I can think of in the early 2000s, Willem Dafoe as Green Goblin.
So good. He's so good. He does such a good like Jekyll and Mr. Hyde thing in the mirror, and his face sells it so well. Like, I can't picture anyone but Dafoe in this role.
Mm-hmm. Throughout this movie, he is facing a lot of issues at his company Oscorp, the character he playing being Norman Osborn. And when push comes to shove and there needs to be genetic testing done on humans to get a contract, he ends up doing it on himself, and he gains extraordinary strength as well. But he also starts to feel symptoms of insanity. Because of this, he starts to treat all of his issues that he has in corporate as just, well, if I kill these people, then that pretty much solves itself.
And it gets to the point where you know, these military contractors that are giving Oscorp this money have the Goblin has destroyed the other competition, and so now Oscorp is like selling out, and so Norman chooses that the only option he has is to kill the entire staff there on the board.
Am I?
Yeah, on the board before they announce that the company is sold. And after that point, I really don't know what his motivations are besides just being an asshole.
Yes,
just kind of fucking shut up.
At some point, he does solve all of his issues in the Oscorp area. And the only thing that's maybe an issue is that Spider-Man tried to stop him once. He did. I mean, Spider-Man didn't save the people that were targeted. So that's sort of not a real issue. I feel that throughout this, he starts saying, "We can rule this city together, Spider-Man."
Yeah,
but what does that mean?
And he wants to, like, I guess it's just, you know, another super powered individual. We could put our powers together and like be an Iron Fist, I guess, is his idea.
Okay. So what would they do with that power? Like, what do they, like what? They just like,
I don't know, probably like redo City Hall or something.
Oh, is it just sort of like a Mega Mind thing where it's like, I want to rule the city? And it's like, well, man.
Yeah, I don't really know what to do. There's crime everywhere now, but like, what's new?
Like, are they? He doesn't seem to want to be like a crime boss because he's never like adding people in. He's already rich as fuck.
Yeah, so he really doesn't have anywhere else to go up.
I think he might just be insane.
No. I don't think that's likely. I think he's got a plan. We just can't see it. But in this movie, this is our, you know, Spider-Man 1. It is our origin story movie. So a lot of this in it, you know, we're seeing Peter get his powers, learn how to use them, learn, you know, what exactly he can do. And in that, I thought that the movie felt like it was a little bit slower. And I know you have a different opinion than that from me. And I think that just it was in the transition from, you know, we'll have this slow Peter moment. And then let's say the first 20 minutes of the movie, whatever, slow Peter moments, normal speed. And then we have this really quick Spider moment where it's like awesome, high energy, really fun. And then we go back to the Peter, which I understand. But when we're just at that such high energy and stuff, I don't want to go back to, oh, hey, May. Yeah, what's up? Like, just a little bit of whiplash, but I understand why they did that, because it can't just be like action in the first origin movie.
It's weird how I think about pacing in this, because I think the origin area, everything before he gets the costume, is perfectly paced, because I feel like I can really see everything that he's going through in this area, especially as also we start to see the first of the Green Goblin. But I think it starts to become too fast after that, just because I feel like the battles they start to go through between Norman and Peter, there's, I don't know, it's the thing where a lot doesn't happen, but they keep just iterating like points they've already had. There's two separate scenes where it's like, are you in or out? And both of them are battles. I don't think that happening twice was really weird. And then there are two where it's like, I'm going to attack the people you love. I think both could have just happened once and you could have filled it with more stuff. And by the end of it, I feel like I haven't really seen a super amount of heroing, definitely more than nowadays movies, where it's really like, I'm not going to show you like fighting anyone. We're just going to go into the master plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoy the aspect up until I think he's at the Daily Bugle.
Mm-hmm.
Up to that point, you know, when he does fully get the suit and then he's just full on Spider-Man, I think it's where they're trying to keep him back a little bit, where they're like, well, we don't want Toby to get too comfortable in Spider-Man, like kind of thing, where they don't want his character to be too used to being Spider-Man already because it's brand new
Mm-hmm.
to him, but they still want to have those, you know, really big moments. And
Yeah.
so we just have these little tiffs with the Green Goblin, like him in a burning building, and then we just see him for 30 seconds, and then, oh, we got to go to lunch or like Thanksgiving, whatever. Sorry. And so stuff like
Yeah.
that, it's just weird. And so there is a lot of doubling back in on the Green Goblin's actions. Just like first he fucks up Aunt May, and then he realizes that Mary Jane can be used, and then like and before that he tries to get to go through Jay Jonah. And
Yeah.
so there's just a lot of moments of like Goblin burst through the wall and that, and then like that's the scene.
I what I really did like about this movie is how there is definitely an intro segment, and then right after that, I don't feel like he needs to learn anything more, like at least through fighting. I feel like he's fully formed in like skill level. It's just maybe he has to learn some moral things or
I don't
something
think
like
he's
that.
confident in his ability. I think he has the ability, and like, you know, he fought Bonesaw. He knows he can kick ass now. He
3
just isn't
minutes of screen
necessarily as
time.
confident with like gun or like kind of thing or like
Oh
street
yeah.
fight, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, I get that. But he seems what I really like is he's such a confident Spider-Man. Like the second he gets that suit, the second he gets the real Spider-Man suit, not the human spider, he he seems just full of energy, and I really like his quips, and I really like just everything he commits. The action in this is so fun, but that's Sam Raimi. I love his action.
One thing that you know, I think a lot of superhero movies don't necessarily touch on is that you know, a lot of these characters, a lot of time, they are nerds. They are like the, you know, the underdog kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
And then we never have that moment where of, you know, of course, putting on that mask for, you know, that underdog kind of character and then being strong would make them like extremely like full of themselves whenever they have that mask on and cocky. And
Mm-hmm.
we do get, you know, a little bit of taste of that in this Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies. And I really enjoy that because it's a, like, it feels like Peter Parker's kind of like messing with you when you're getting arrested, you know? Like it's not as good as the quips from Andrew Garfield, I'll say, but
Mm-hmm.
the confidence and then the confidence combined with his action and his just physical acting in it, I think were really good.
I will have to agree there. It was. I do love that sort of level of confidence. We haven't seen a lot of it in the Tom Holland movies. A lot of it's like, "Whoa, I'm falling," or
Yeah,
something
he's
like
like,
that.
I'm a teenager. Whoa, oh, I'm nervous.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's a lot
Mr.
more.
Stark.
Yeah, I get the idea of him. I guess being sort of
Like a
like new to.
mentor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get him being new to the game, but Spider-Man, in some level, should be cocky, and I love that about him because like it's this really like in between point where there is really three archetypes in superheroes. They're dark and they're like scary almost, or they're like really comforting, or they're funny. That's what most archetypes sort of fall into, and the funny is perfected by Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man definitely has that perfect mix of it where, in in other superhero movies, let's say in Civil War or something, he's that kid that, he's going to steal Captain America's shield, but he's still a
Mhm.
little awkward about it kind of after. I like that level of Spider-Man
Yes.
where he's cocky
Mhm.
enough to take Captain America's shield out of his hands, but still be like, hello, sir. Like, I dig that.
That
And
was
now
perfect for him.
it is. And now going more into our individual characters, I want to talk about how do you feel about Mary Jane and Aunt May in this movie specifically? Because we always get a different kind of look or kind of realization of
Mhm.
them through the movie. So how do you feel about the Raimi ones?
I think when I was trying to understand Aunt May in this movie, I was surprised at a rewatch how little she's really emphasized. She's really like disconnected from the film and only really there in this one to just be a threat to like Spider-Man's identity. But Mary Jane, I thought, had a lot of characterization with her. I think that sort of idea of her like being in a weird house, being in a really weird part of her life where she's really disrespected by everyone, can mean a lot to Tobey Maguire's character because it is really a standard, like, oh, I'm the one that'll treat you right. I can get you out of here.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think she does the role really well. I will say I prefer this so much more than journalist MJ. I mostly just because MJ sort of wanting to be an actress, wanting to be a model and pursuing that route and having these hardships that they show with her family or other things in her life means so much more to what Spider-Man is than just making her Lois Lane, which has been the like constant in new media.
I really don't enjoy the journalist route because then it just feels like, Peter's working for the Bugle, and so she's just also working for the Bugle.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels like a cop out a lot of the time, and that she doesn't get enough characterization, that she doesn't have her own wants, and her wants are just the same as Peter's, just she's not a superhero. Like, she wants to help people and like the truth and all that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a little bit disappointing, but in this movie, I think in Spider-Man 2 that we'll see next week, we'll see a lot more Aunt May. I think there's a lot more emphasis on that because of the marriage aspect. But in this movie, I think Aunt May was treated much more as, that old woman grandmother. And then MJ, while I do think the actress career is much, much better than that journalism thing because we can see her motivations and just see her struggle, like you said. I just think that at the end of the day, she still was, just a screaming chick through half of this movie, just like, and that is partly people's biggest complaint about her character specifically in these movies, is that she's just constantly screaming in danger. But I think this is the best adaptation of Mary Jane we've gotten through the movies. I don't know if this is the best Aunt May we've gotten, but I think it's worlds better than the Tom Holland Aunt May.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like the Tom Holland Aunt May for specific reasons. But one thing I thought I really liked about this MJ was sort of, I guess you can tell how she changes as a character based on what she like is looking for in a guy. And let me tell you, that's great writing for women. Let's give it up for Sam Raimi. Well, did he write this? I think there was a different writer when I was looking at the credits.
I don't know. Let's say he did.
Yeah, but just like the idea of like, oh, we could show so much about her character growth by who she's dating, what man she's involved in. But
she likes Flash now? No more.
Yeah, I think going away from Flash is really interesting because then it's sort of like, okay, she's trying to distance herself from men that are like abusing her. She wants to leave that part of her life, especially as she's leaving high school. And then you have her go towards Harry Osborn. And that's sort of a level of, yeah, he's a pretty nice guy, but she starts to learn more and more about his darker side. And really just the idea that his praise for his father over Trump's connection to her. So when Norman is being like a bitch to her, he's really just like, that's my father, and I'll be lucky if I'm half of what he is.
Yeah, exactly. He just doesn't defend her at all.
Yeah.
One thing I don't really understand is why Mary Jane went to Harry at all. Harry's like, through the whole movie, we can just see he's like, Mary Jane, why didn't you wear the black dress? I wanted to impress my father. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Like shit like that. But everything in this movie, I think, is built and bred to be like the first movie in a trilogy. I mean, just the setup of Mary Jane dating, and then the setup with, J.K. Simmons and Peter getting a job. I think this is very clearly what they wanted to be the first in a series of movies, because everything's set up for Peter to grow and for Peter to take that next step. And the audience can clearly visualize that next step finishing this movie, which I think is really important.
Absolutely. I mean, the cliffhanger we have at the end where Mary Jane sort of tells Peter Parker, hey, so like I thought I was into your roommate, and then I thought I was into your coworker Spider-Man, but I found out I was interested in you. So do you want to hook up? And then he was like, no. That has to be my least favorite scene in that movie.
Which one?
When
in Spider-Man 3?
Well, no, in Spider-Man 1, when Mary Jane is at Norman Osborn's funeral, her boyfriend walks off and she goes up to Toby and says, by the way, I really want to make out with you right now. So she makes out with him at the funeral. and then Peter Parker has this really weird and like awkward speech where he's like, Mary Jane, you have meant the world to me. It's like they're giving like the speech on The Bachelor or something.
Oh, isn't that his little quiet, like he's talking way too quiet kind of
He's
thing?
talking way too quiet, and then at the very end he's like, by the way, I think we should only be friends, even though I just expressed everything I love about you.
Yeah, even though she's like everything you wanted.
Yeah, and then she's like, wait, really? And he's like, yeah, and then he just walks off. Stupid fucking
Yeah, I don't get it at all, man. Like, whatever. In this, one more character I want to touch on just really quick, I guess, is J.K. Simmons. I mean,
yes.
He's so synonymous with Spider-Man. Just his character and his voice at this point is just J. Jonah Jameson, and people can't really separate that. Even in the new Spider-Man games, I mean, visually, it's just him. And so, what do you think would happen if J.K. Simmons doesn't return to the role of J. Jonah anymore? Like, who do you think we're going to go to?
I think, well, here's the thing. Every single version of J. Jonah Jameson has been a shadow of J.K. Simmons, even if it's not him. I think at the end of the day, we will just get someone very similar to him. There's this difference between him and I'm sorry if I'm going to keep making Superman references, but because of the journalism.
Yeah.
But like when you compare to Perry White, super malleable. He changes all the time. And J. Jonah Jameson is going to look the exact same way. He's going to sound the exact same way. He's going to act the exact same way for the rest of time, basically.
Yeah, that's fair. I really hope in the movies we get to see the Mayor Jonah arc. That'd be really cool. I'll dig that.
I have never heard of that arc before.
The Mayor Jonah arc? Oh yeah, dude, he becomes the mayor of New York.
What comic run is that? Or what years?
I don't know in my head, but I just know it was a thing at some point.
That would be awesome. Does he make like a manhunt for Spider-Man?
He does. He does multiple things.
Well, that's what mayors are known to do.
Well, sadly, a lot of them don't. That's the troubling part.
WAM is officially against Mayor Eric Adams of New York City.
No, I'm officially against former Governor Chris Christie. He was so funny, and some of his interview, you have been stopped. It's so good.
With a name like that, he has to perform like the comedy well.
Yeah, it's got to be physical comedy. It's all got to be there. But in terms of physical comedy and everything, what did you think about the the technical elements and the physical acting, or just the camera work and everything in this movie?
Well, okay, so for most of this movie, the effects in this are beautiful. This is, in my opinion, the best we've ever seen a Spider-Man swing. It just has so much energy, and it helps that every time he starts swinging, you can just hear Tobey Maguire going like, "Wow!"
Yeah, every time. That scream is so great. It's so much there's so much fun and like joy in it.
Yeah.
Where he's just having such a fun time.
Yeah, and it makes you have a fun time because like you're leaving the theater being like, I felt like I swung. I feel like I've been swinging. But that's very contrast by the almost no effort they put into the CG model of the human spider when he's crawling up walls.
Don't worry about it.
Did you see how bad that was?
Don't worry about it.
It was shit. It was so terrible.
It was like, what was 2001 or something?
Yeah.
2002? It's fine.
2002. Oh, here's the thing.
Look, did you see Spy Kids 2? Okay, we're doing better than that.
Here's how I feel about it. If you can do the Spider-Man, just normal Spider-Man, really good, then just put that amount of effort into this because it's going to take people out if it doesn't look real. And if you can't do it that good, don't do close-ups on the fucking model.
But it didn't look that bad. It's okay.
Dude, Toy Story looks more alive.
It wasn't that bad. It was okay. It visually looked like Toby. He was just moving like there was an exoskeleton in his spine.
Oh, at least when I saw it, it might have been different because we saw different things. You saw the movie's digital package, and I had like the old ass 35 millimeter from first release. There could have been an update to it. I obviously haven't done any research.
I'm not saying it looks fantastic, but it looks like Toby. He doesn't look inhuman.
Dude, to me, it didn't look human. Like straight up looked like a blow up doll.
The fucking creature. How do you feel about the the overall music in this? Because Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, they just always do really well with music.
Yeah, I mean, I love Danny Elfman. He's great. He's known for just like how iconic the score for the original, or not the original, but the 1980s Batman movie, and he has all of that same thing in here. I didn't pick up that there was a central theme in this, but I picked up how many like strong choices there were with, I think, maybe triplets and just certain notes that like there doesn't have to be a theme because there is a just like an overarching tone that was done so well, and it feels magical, and it feels sort of like daring, and it feels not scary but as if it's like just like sharp. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's fair. There's always a lot of energy. There's always a feeling of momentum in all of the music and the score throughout it. I think the camera work through the swinging is done really well. It's very fluid. It never feels like we're being thrown from building to building. And whenever it does cut to other shots of like Toby running on the side of a building or something like that, they don't take me out of the flow of him running and swinging through. It's a very easily seeable, like, okay, yeah, this angle is good. It's like an easy progression. And I think there was no points where it really jumped around too much in this movie.
Now, I have a question for you, Mr. Man, Mr. Fella. What do you think about the suit in general? Because this was for a long time synonymous with Spider-Man. Like this was what was on every piece of, well, not every piece of marketing, but it was like what you imagined as Spider-Man. But it's not completely true to the suit. There's some largely different artistic takes on it. So how do you feel about it?
I really enjoy the 3D web thing on it, like how it's raised all on the suit. I think that's my favorite aspect of it. I like the eyes. They're not too big. And I think this is my favorite and just the best Spider-Man suit, and just like worlds better than the Tom Holland suits and everything. And a big part of it is this is a real suit. It's a physical suit that Tobey Maguire was wearing through shooting. And so while there is a physical Spider-Man suit that Tom Holland wears sometimes, it is very few and far between than compared to him just having a CG'd suit on, which is just disappointing for a Spider-Man movie. I want to see a man in a superhero costume, not CG'd into a costume.
No, absolutely. I'm going to agree with that. I love the suit's 3D effect. When I watched the head in this movie, I noticed two things. I noticed one, his mouth never moves when he's talking, and that's like hard to do with the shell that it's on. But like it's one thing that I noticed. But also it's a little wonky, the face, because there's like parts where the webbing doesn't match or the eyes are sort of misplaced. But I felt, oh my gosh, it kind of does feel more like a homemade suit because of that.
I think the fact that it doesn't feel photorealistic, you can cut it down the middle and it's going to be the same exact on this side and that side. I think that helps it a lot in that it does feel like a homegrown, he made it himself.
Homegrown.
He grew it in his closet. But it's just a lot better than, what the fuck do we get in the new Spider-Man movies? Like we see the little homemade suit, which is cute, whatever. And then he immediately just gets a cool one.
Yeah, I think, the I guess digital suits that they have in the Tom Holland movies, there's some I really enjoy about it. The reflective eyes, the moving mouth. I think some of the colors are okay, but at the end of the day, it's a little over designed and it's a little flat. That's, I think, one thing they really improved at the No Way Home final scene, and everybody's been raving about that suit. That's still not physical though. That whole thing was CG. So I really am hoping that they add a lot more physical elements to their shooting, including that suit. But the fact that MJ is returning to Spider-Man 4 is really concerning for that series. So I'm not going to bet that like even that suit's going to stay.
I'm just not excited for the Tom Holland series at all. I haven't really loved any of the movies that have come out with Tom Holland in it. I enjoyed it in the aspect that I enjoy a Spider-Man movie, but it didn't feel like a down-to-earth little Spider-Man thing, because at some way it was always connected to the larger MCU. And I just want a down-to-earth superhero doing his normal things. I don't need it to be a big, huge connecting plot. And I just also don't like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I think he's too kiddie.
No, I think that's absolutely fair. I think the big thing with those movies. It's just it doesn't feel like this is a New York thing a lot of the time. I think that's what like people keep talking about how Far From Home is a stinker, and I think one thing that people aren't picking up because it's maybe subconscious is we want to see Spider-Man in New York, and when he's out of New York, it doesn't look as cool.
No, because then it's just, okay, this weird guy's jumping around the city we don't know. But if it's a city we already do know, like New York, where, you know, the United States have seen it so many times in so much media, where the focus is then on Spider-Man and the people in it versus the city itself and like seeing it, you know?
I think
if you put them in a different place, the camera operators themselves are going to be trying to find prettier shots in the city when compared to New York, where they can get
anywhere,
any shot they'll take, where they'll be like, oh yeah, look at Spider-Man swinging down, and it'll look good.
But I do think they've done, or at least in the final scene at Tower Bridge in Far From Home, it's really interesting how they did that, because it really displays just like how, like, I guess swingable bridges are in general. And now that you've added an iconic one, I thought, okay, well, that probably adds to why that end scene for me is really enjoyable, is because it's just perfect for Spider-Man. Bridges can remind me of that New York atmosphere, because we have so many bridges in these Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, there's many. What do you think about the overall like dialogue writing throughout the movie?
Poopy at times. I think Toby's lines were dumb, or he performed them bad. It's either of the one. But Peter Parker was like, I understand at some point you have to be like, oh, he's like a little awkward nerd, but man, did it stink. It was so stink. Like I get it at points, but as we talked about, his last speech in this movie, dog shit, horrible.
Yeah, there's a lot of moments where it's just like, Peter, what the fuck are you doing? Stop, Peter! What? No. And so it's just like, I think it's a bad mix of, they want to do the high school boy, you know, kind of not exactly know what he's doing, just kind of jumping around personality, but then he's also trying to be this like heroic cool guy Spider-Man, and it just gets lost somewhere in the middle where he's like, you already know who I am. You're friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Bye.
Oh, I like that line, to be honest.
Well, I just mean like shit like that, where it's just like, you know, I think in the next movies they do better with that. When Toby starts to get some more agency to him and
some more bitches.
Like, yeah. But in this movie, I will agree, Toby is pretty stupid sometimes.
Yeah. I think everybody else does a pretty good job. I think mostly because they're not burdened with that nerd thing. But yeah, everyone else delivers lines really well, and I thought they were great. Obviously, the standouts are Green Goblin, but along with that, I thought honestly, James Franco as Harry Osborn did a great job. You get to see just like a lot of stuff there. He's a small character in this, but I'm just like, yeah, I could totally see his character.
He's a small character, and we really don't see a lot, but it's totally believable. It's totally believable, and we can see the setup for the next movies really easily too.
Yeah, it's a shame that after this movie they show Harry Osborn in college, because we know, as everyone knows, James Franco and college girls don't really mix well.
Overall, what do you think is your favorite and least favorite scenes of this movie?
I've already talked about my least favorite being the ending thing where Mary Jane's like, you know what? I think we should really make out at this funeral.
Yeah, but that's pretty bad. What's your favorite?
My favorite has to be when Spider-Man and Green Goblin are fighting on the bridge, and he has to save both Mary Jane and a car full of a line car? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
The line car full of children. And when he's struggling to do that, and the Green Goblin's basically like, okay, well, it's time to, kill all of y'all. New Yorkers start just throwing shit at him. And it's like, you mess with New York, man. And I think this movie did New York incredibly well. Not only that moment, but also the moment where they introduce Spider-Man with footage of him fighting, but also just like interviews where the people of New York are just talking about how much they love or hate him. That felt so real. I wouldn't even be surprised if they just grabbed random people off the street and it's like, hey, could you say this real quick?
I saw him have a nest in Central Park.
The guy that's just like singing on the subway, we should all give him a hug, stuff like that. It's so good. This really does make me feel like New York is real.
Yeah, if only New York was real. It'd be so cool. I think my favorite scene in this is going to be the upside down kissing scene. Not
Mhm.
because it's a really pretty, really great scene or anything, but just because that the fact that I know that Tobey Maguire in that scene was just fucking drowning basically because of his mask and all the water that was pouring on him. He was just getting water, whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Toby couldn't breathe through that whole scene, and so MJ was freezing. So they were both shivering, and she was essentially just giving him mouth to mouth through that entire scene, just so they could shoot it. And they had to do it like some insane amount of times. Like it took a ton of takes just to get right.
You know what? If any girl wants to CPR me while I'm doing Spider-Man, Wham has an email.
We have an email. Please contact us. So overall, with all that stuff, what are you gonna rate it, you think?
As I've said, I have some issues with this, mostly from technical and dialogue elements. Maybe it goes a little bit too fast. I feel like we haven't seen him be enough Spider-Man. But when I look at this, even with those problems, I find that even if stuff goes wrong, it's a good laugh. And since there's such a good comedy element to it, and since I'm sort of seeing this as an artifact of my childhood, even things I know could be improved ultimately just make me feel more at home in the movie. And because of that, I just had a great time. I would probably give this a 4 out of 5. It's just not everything a superhero movie should be, but it's everything going back to a movie should be.
Yeah, that's fair. I think in my rating, I'm gonna have to give it probably a 3.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy the Sam Raimi movies. Spider-Man 1 is probably the least favorite of the 3, I guess, if I had to pick.
Yeah.
But that being said, I still love this movie. I mean, I own all 3, and I'm really excited for the next ones that we're going to watch next week again in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And so for all that, I think a 3 is going to be my rating this week.
That's so brave of you.
I know.
Okay, so what are you doing this weekend, Nick?
I don't know. I think I'm just gonna kind of relax, go into some movie news, something like that.
Oh. Well, before we do that, before you go off and do that, you should really think about what's really important.
Here at WAM, we use this podcast as an artful avenue to blissfully and peacefully vent our fiery, unbridled rage buried deep, deep down. And now you can too.
It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you will always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable.
If you thought about podcasting before and you realize that you need a lot of different tools and services, those days are over. With Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform, you can create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code WAM and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan.
We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story.
The headlines.
Man, Nolan, you're right. That is important. Thank you.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Okay, so now do you want to do some movie news?
Please.
Okay. Well, speaking of Sam Raimi, we have 2 news stories that bring up him. The first one being that there are official talks for him to direct Spider-Man 4.
Yay!
Now, when you think of Spider-Man 4, what are you thinking of?
The Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, of course. That's exactly what everyone wants.
Oh, well, he's in talks to direct the Tom Holland Spider-Man 4.
Suicide's a good option. Shit's so fucked up. I can't believe that.
I cannot believe that this is what they're doing. I mean, if they're going to be looking at one specific director to do it, I guess the first one that would come to mind is Sam Raimi. But what would Sam Raimi do with Tom Holland? There's, I guess, maybe he's in a state where he can redevelop the character any way he wants. That might be good in Sam Raimi's hands. But if I just watch that, what I'm going to be thinking is, man, I should really go watch the Tobey Maguire movies.
What if we just get, so it's Tom Holland, but we just put him in the same role that Tobey was, and so it is Spider-Man 4, but it's just Tom Holland instead of Tobey, and it can be the same almost.
I mean, you could
We can
do
get
that.
James Franco again too. I think he died in Spider-Man 3 actually, but we can get Sandman.
Yeah. So what were the villains in Spider-Man 4? It was Kraven, it was maybe the Lizard, and maybe Mysterio? Is that right?
I guess so.
Okay. So basically Insomniac Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, basically.
I would love to see how they're going to handle this. I think it's not going to be good, but there's a chance it is. But besides that, we also have word from Bruce Campbell, who we love, who has officially said that he is down to return as Ash Williams from Evil Dead, but only if the project that he's in is directed by Sam Raimi, which is never going to happen. But that's
Yeah.
cool.
It's great. I'm glad that Bruce Campbell's so willing to do Ash again, but it's not the last the last movie did great, and it wasn't Sam Raimi.
Mm-mm.
So I think they're gonna keep with that director.
I think they're really just going to be making Evil Dead movies that are executively produced by Sam Raimi, and there's going to be maybe new avenues they go with the story for each one. But no, he's never going to direct another one again, I don't think.
I think that Bruce Campbell will come back into the role of Ash in some way, no matter what. I just don't think he knows it yet. But I think it's going to happen. I don't think he can avoid it. I think he just wants to so bad that he's going to before he dies.
Don't worry, we'll guide you.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. We have a lot of decently big news for CinemaCon. For some reason, there was a huge spill of stuff like pretty much today. But the biggest one that is of note is there is a Frank Sinatra biopic being made starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
Okay.
Directed by Martin Scorsese. It's
neat, but I don't want a biopic.
Well, okay. You don't want a biopic of Frank Sinatra? What do you want him? Like fighting like robots?
Preferably taking down like a drug ring, maybe. Where he like kicks in the door and starts singing Fly Me to the Moon, and they all just like start crying so hard that they die.
I want to fly to the moon. That's fair. I don't know. I've never seen a biopic from him that's praising someone, I guess. Maybe, or at least from Martin Scorsese, unless we're talking about his Jesus biopics.
Yeah. Wasn't he making another one?
He is making another one. And guess who's in talks to star in those?
Defoe?
Andrew Garfield or Miles Teller.
Who?
The guy from Whiplash.
Oh.
The old
Why?
Mr. Fantastic.
Why?
It's unclear what role they will be playing if they star in it. I imagine not Jesus.
Busboy 4.
Oh yeah, it is a modern Jesus movie. I forgot about it.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's going to be exciting.
That was such a funny
Well, like I'm so confused as to what that would mean. But like obviously this is Marty. I trust Marty. He hasn't done wrong since he was Puff Daddy.
Since he did wrong.
Yeah, he hasn't done wrong since he did wrong.
Yeah, you're right.
The last big thing that came out of this sort of news about big directors is Steven Spielberg is going to be making a new movie, and it's going to be based on UFOs in some sense, but it's not going to be adapting anything. He's done aliens in the past with E.T. He's done stuff with what was it? The War of the Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done artificial intelligence, some sci-fi, but this being his sort of own idea is going to be very interesting. And I just miss him in sci-fi, because I don't count Ready Player One as sci-fi. I count that as boring.
It wasn't that bad.
I just thought too much cameo stuff. And then, to be honest, the girl having that weird birthmark and that being why she's so shy, that just turned me off from the movie a little bit.
Yeah, it was fan service, but I liked seeing Halo.
That's fair. The Shining thing was cool. I really liked that part.
I just like seeing like the Spartans and a warthog like charging and like really just the final battle. That's the only part I really enjoyed.
I like that there were Battletoads.
That is true. There were Battletoads.
Battletoads for the Wii.
Can never take that away.
But that's most of what there is. There's more that can be told if we want to go into Now You See Me or Young Sheldon, but let's be honest here. Now You See Me 3 and Young Sheldon, that's not our realm of expertise. We leave that to y'all, the common people.
I believe in you to all research Young Sheldon on your own. I think you'll do great.
That's your reading assignment.
Next week, I want a reply in the Spotify page about what you learned about Young Sheldon and how it makes you feel.
And if you don't get it done, we're going to have to think about getting a new class of listeners.
If you don't get it done, we're going to review every episode of My Little Pony one by one, and you can't do anything about it.
Just like 2-hour-long segments.
The camera work in the scene was really impressive, actually. Rainbow Dash did amazing.
Yes.
With that note, this has been WAM. Thank you all for listening. Make sure to follow the link in our podcast description to follow all of our socials and our YouTube page, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Next week, we're going to be continuing with our little Spider-Man trilogy series with Spider-Man 2. Hope you all enjoyed. This has been WAM.
And you've been whammed.
We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, well, maybe. No, it's a podcast. I can't see anyone.
I just can't see.